Much for coming. Ladies and gentlemen, a warm welcome to UNESCO and a warm welcome to this run-up event to the GCCS 2017. The main theme of GCCS 2017 is Cyber for All, a secure and inclusive cyberspace for sustainable development. Actually, when you look at this theme, it resonates very well with UNESCO's mandate. In UNESCO's constitution, it is explicitly stated that the organization's mission is to promote the free flow of ideas by word and image. This theme also resonates very well with our work in contributing to the achievement of SDG Goal 16.10, which seeks to ensure public access to information and protect fundamental freedoms in accordance with national legislation and international agreements. Of course, UNESCO has been involved in the development of SDG goals indicator metadata, such as metadata for SDG Goal 16.10, but the same metadata can actually be used for other SDG targets, such as 9C, which is on internet access and affordability, 16.3 on access to justice, 16.5 on anti-corruption, and transparent and accountable institutions, 16.5. And education, and a host of many others. As you know, communication and information covers almost everything, you know. So I do believe some of you may also be aware of our extensive work on media and information literacy, which is a new construct which bridges information literacy, media literacy, along with information and communication technology, ICT, and digital literacy. All of that to empower people, communities, and nations to participate and contribute to global knowledge societies. We are also involved in many, many other initiatives, such as the development and advocacy for the application of global media and information literacy assessment framework, which is a framework which seeks to assess country readiness and competencies in media information literacy. But ladies and gentlemen, we are all doing all of this, but never before has the world been in dire need for the empowerment of citizens to access and retrieve and understand, evaluate, use, create, as well as share information and media content in a critical, ethical, and effective way. Never before. For instance, today, information and knowledge are considered to be the most strategic and important resources. We now have about 3.5 billion internet users, and it is said that this year we have created more data than the data we have produced in the last 5,000 years. But these developments also raise so many challenges. How can we empower our citizens to harness many opportunities existing through cyberspace? How can we empower all our citizens, right to the last person who lives to the farthest point of this nation and the world, to develop critical thinking and analytical skills so that they cannot fall prey to disinformation? How can we connect each and every citizen to the internet? How can we connect each and every citizen, regardless of their social status, regardless of their literacy levels, or regardless of their physical or even cognitive challenges? How can we ensure fundamental rights to all citizens in the age of the Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, and big data? So there are so many challenges. I can spend the whole day asking these questions. But of course, UNESCO believes in multi-stakeholder approach to solving all these questions and many challenges related to cyberspace. And it's for that same reason UNESCO is contributing and supporting the Global Conference on Cyberspace 2017. And that is why we are also very much pleased and feel very much privileged to be in partnership with the government of India through the Ministry of Electronics and IT. So, ladies and gentlemen, today we'll have an opportunity to hear from our three speakers seated on this table here, who will be speaking about various themes related to the GCS conference, and in particular, the UNESCO Internet Universality Indicators. So I would like to introduce to you our speakers today. Once again, thank you so much, and welcome Dr. Chandra, who happens to be the additional director, but I wish he's the additional secretary from the Ministry of Electronics and IT. We'll also have Dr. Indrajit Banerjee, who's the Director of Knowledge Societies Division, Communication and Information Sector of UNESCO. Dr. Indrajit oversees the UNESCO Global Program on ICTs and Access to Information. He joined the organization in 2009 as the Chief of ICTs in Education, Science and Culture, a section of the Communication and Information Sector. But before joining UNESCO, Dr. Banerjee was the Secretary General of the Asian Media and Information Center in Singapore. That was from 2004 to 2009, and an Associate Professor at the Nanyang Technological University of Singapore from 2001 to 2009. He holds a PhD with distinction in Communication Studies from the Sorbonne University in Paris. He is also a member of International Communication Association, the International Association of Media and Communication Research, the Association of Education in Journalism and Mass Communication. I can continue mentioning so many accolades. Welcome so much, Dr. Indrajit Banerjee. We are very proud of you and having you as a director. And thanks for supporting us in India. We also have Smitha Krishna Prasad. She is a project manager with the Civil Liberties team at the Center for Communication Governance at the National Law University, New Delhi. At CCG, she focuses on issues relating to privacy, data protection, and surveillance, looks into sectors where the intersection of law and technology have an increased impact on the right to privacy, among other things. Before joining CCG, Smitha was a member of the Technology, Media, and Telecoms Practice Group at a leading law firm in India. During this time, she focused on matters pertaining to data privacy, information technology, intellectual property, telecommunications, media, and entertainment laws. Smitha holds an LLM degree in International Legal Studies from the NYU School of Law and a BA-LLB from Symbiosis Law School, Pune. So, welcome so much, our speakers. We will start with Dr. Indrajit Banerjee, who will be followed by Smitha, and finally we'll have a special keynote address by Dr. Somnath Chandra. And all the speakers will have 20 minutes, and at the end of this session, we'll have an opportunity for a question and answer session. So without much ado, I'd like to welcome Dr. Indrajit to speak. Welcome, Dr. Indrajit.
Thank you, Mr. Alamin, for those very kind words of introduction. I would rather skip this long PowerPoint presentation and get to the chase. The issue at hand, why are we talking about cyberspace as being such a potential and a threat, is very simple. In my view, we made a big mistake when we moved from an internet of researchers and an internet of military use to an internet for all, never thinking that there are as many crooks as there are good people in the world. So the more people got online, the more we found the internet to have all kinds of threats, hate speech, cyberbullying, breach of privacy, and so on and so forth. So, at the end of the day, the internet is not very different from the world that we live in. And I think that was our illusion. Now, we thought somehow that everybody is going to be very nice on the internet and it's going to be a beautiful world. So that's the key issue which we are faced with. Now, how do we deal with it? At UNESCO, we have decided on several approaches, one of them being media and information literacy. That unless and until we have an enforced curriculum on the internet, on mobile phones, on Facebook, etc., in schools, how would our young generation know about both the opportunities and challenges on the net? And this is why we think at UNESCO media and information literacy is absolutely critical for the way forward. UNESCO has a large number of initiatives, but let me tell you a few things about Internet universality. I'm not going to project the PowerPoint. It's very heavy and full of methodology and stuff. But let me just summarize it for you. We at UNESCO came up with the concept of Internet universality, thinking how do we provide access to people globally and minimize the risks. So we came out with 4 principles, which are called ROAM. R-O-A-M. And I'll be happy to share the PowerPoint with you. R stands for rights-based. O stands for open. A stands for accessible. And M stands for multi-stakeholder. So we call these the Rome principles. And we believe that if we build an internet based on these 4 principles, there's going to be a much more positive, development-oriented, and now, of course, with the Sustainable Development Goals, approach to the internet. Then we have developed a whole set of indicators where we say for each and every one of these 4 principles, what are the indicators that one should measure? Maybe, Anirban, just, yep. So for each of the 4 principles, we believe that if we can manage these 4 principles, we'll be able to manage the internet in terms of leveraging on the benefits of the internet, at the same time minimizing on the negative aspects, negative consequences. So, human rights based, as you know, we're having more and more contestations on abuse of human rights on the internet. And therefore, if every country decides that human rights should be a basic and fundamental principle in terms of access to the internet and conduct on the internet, it's a little bit like I talk about cyber citizenship. That the moment you are a citizen of a country, you basically prescribe to a constitution, to a set of laws and norms and values by which you conduct yourself. Why is it not possible then that whenever you go online as a global citizen, because the internet is without boundaries, that you don't subscribe to some values, some norms, some codes of conduct? This puzzles me enormously, because we have this monstrous platform which has got, like my colleague Alamin said now, 3.6, 3.7 billion people, users, larger than any country in the world, larger than India and China put together. We have laws in the real world, or we don't have laws in cyberspace. So at least let them be human rights based. In terms of openness, we have seen many efforts and attempts by big companies who own all the data to restrict open access. They own the data. We have at UNESCO a major open access program where we fundamentally argue that every research which is funded by public funding or government funding, like the IITs and the IIMs and JNUs and all the rest, should be openly accessible. Why is it that a taxpayer who already pays for subsidizing research in a university, in India or anywhere else, has to again then pay money to access a journal which is published by an American publisher? And many of these journals, I've been told recently, that some of the health journals cost 30,000 US dollars per year for subscription. And we, Indian scientists, are contributing to these journals for no money at all to get citations so that we get academic promotion and the copyright doesn't belong to us. So why is the government of India then subsidizing education? So that's the big question on openness. It has to be open and equally open. So it shouldn't be that somebody comes and says you can only access these 20 websites. As you know, the famous debate which happened with Facebook not very long time ago. Accessible. Now this is again a very, very critical question, because when we talk accessibility, most people think accessibility is only about connectivity. Not at all true. Let me give you a very simple example. 7,000 official languages exist in the world. 450 languages are online. So what accessibility are we talking about? Why should a farmer or a fisherman or anybody in India or Africa or any part of the developing world access the internet when there's no content in her or his language? So accessibility has been skewed by, again, these big technology companies to mean only connectivity. Not true at all. Accessibility for disabled people. Just yesterday I read a report that less than 1% of India's educational institutions are disabled friendly. Less than 1%. If it was 20%, I would have said, okay, we have some way to go. But less than 1%, it's a shame. How many websites are accessible to blind people? Tell me. 0.00 whatever percent. So when we talk accessibility again, that's why we put it in our own principles. Accessibility means accessible to people from different communities, different languages. And again, accessibility also must refer to the question of livelihoods. What is the benefit of me to access the internet? If there is no benefit, I mean, I don't know, Gujarati farmer is not going to go and watch CNN and BBC, no? It doesn't change their life. How do we ensure that there are contents on the internet which have a decisive impact on their life? Finally, multi-stakeholder participation, the last of the principles. It is clear that governments cannot control the internet, cannot rule the internet, cannot manage the internet. Private sector plays a huge part. Civil society groups are putting huge amounts of content. So it has to be a multi-stakeholder participation. And for those of you who know, we have the Internet Governance Forum, which happens every year. And this year it's in December in Geneva, where we bring together all stakeholders to ask them to take joint responsibility for the management and the governance of the internet. The rest of the presentation gets you to the indicators under each of the categories. How do you assess, for example, rights-based? What are the rights we're talking about? What do you mean by openness? What are the indicators? What do you mean by accessibility? And what do you mean by multi-stakeholder? So I'll let you look at it by yourselves peacefully. I'll be very happy to answer any questions you have. And with that, I think I'll end my presentation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Indrajit. I think we should reserve the questions towards the end. And for that, I'd welcome Smita to speak.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you to UNESCO and Alameen and Annabelle for allowing me to be here and speak to all of you and be in the company of such esteemed colleagues. We just heard from the previous speakers about the state of the internet today, about how we have more people online than ever. We currently have 48% of the world's population online and 70% of the world's youth online. The cost of obtaining access to the internet, whether it's broadband or mobile, is reducing drastically every day. And any reports that you pick up will tell you about how the tech industries and the online industries, whether it's social media or e-commerce, are the fastest growing industries in the world. There is this sense of jubilance every time you read about anything in the tech industry and any sort of new innovation in technology. And rightly so, because there is a lot of growth there. But we also see that a lot of people, ranging from intergovernmental organizations like UNESCO to academics and civil society members, and even several members of the tech industry themselves, today have increasing concerns about the freedoms that we have on the internet. And there's been a lot of conversation about this recently. I think UNESCO came out with a series on internet freedom a couple of years ago. Most recently, the Freedom House just released their Freedom on the Net 2017 report, just like 2 days ago, I think. And if you read their report for this year, it says that while there is increasing internet penetration, there has been a significant decline in internet freedom over the past 7 years across the world. In India, we're considered partly free, and we've maintained our the same score as we had last year, but my colleagues at CCG authored the India report, and they'll tell you that while we've maintained our score because there was increasing internet penetration, but it's been offset by the number of internet shutdowns, by the number of violations of users' rights, number of blocking of content that's happened in India. So I just wanted to highlight this because you see a range of perspectives when you read about about the internet and the way things are growing on the internet. On the one hand, you have people who think that all innovation in technology is great and it should be encouraged at any cost. And then the other hand, you have many that feel that there should be more of an emphasis on rights and freedoms on the internet from the ground up, from the time when you're developing this kind of technology. And I think that that's where having something like the UNESCO Internet Universality indicators is very significant because it helps us understand where we are and where we should be going. The indicators don't just talk about economic growth, but also focus on a rights and user-centric approach to the internet. And that's very important when we're talking about the Sustainable Development Goals, which I understand are the end goal for this project. So as Mr. Banerjee just discussed, the Internet Universality indicators of UNESCO consist of 4 comprehensive indicators. The first is that internet governance should be rights-based and the internet should be free. The second, that the internet should be open in terms of development and implementation of technology, as well as barriers to entry for all stakeholders. The third is that the internet should be accessible to all. And the fourth, that there should be multi-stakeholder participation in internet governance. I'd like to propose here, and I hope people agree with me, that the R here, the talk about human rights, is the most significant of these indicators. To some extent, because having these achieving human rights-based and free internet would also would naturally lead to achieving the other 3. And achieving the other 3 would also mean that you have a human rights and based and free internet. So just speaking a little more about the rights that we have on the internet, the first human right that we think of when we speak about internet and human rights is probably freedom and expression. And this is rightly so because the internet and the way social media has developed. Secondly, the right to privacy specifically has been recognized by internationally for many years now as a gateway to be able to exercise your other rights, including your right to freedom of expression and opinion. And the internet, with all of its positives and its negatives, its many faults, provides the perfect platform to either allow these rights to flourish completely, and at the same time also provides a platform for people to restrict these rights, especially things like the right to privacy, in an unprecedented manner. You really have, it's a whole different world out there from what it was 20 years ago. So in addition to human rights specifically, as I mentioned earlier, and as we've heard before, the universality indicators speak of openness, accessibility, and multi-stakeholder participation. And I think that these rights that we're discussing, freedom of expression and privacy, are key to ensuring that these indicators are successfully achieved and that the internet is safe and secure for all. So the right to expression, which is bolstered by the right to privacy of such expression, is important for fostering discussion and debate and also intellectual growth. And it goes a long way towards ensuring that the internet is open and accessible to all. In many circumstances, we see that people from marginalized groups, maybe women in rural areas, or people from castes or classes that are traditionally discriminated against, may not have the tools to express themselves without being censored by those in power. This could be government, it could be political parties, it could be employers, it could even be family members, depending upon where these people are coming from. And too often, when they try to express their opinions, it could lead to actual physical danger for these people. And even if not physical danger, we're seeing increasingly the effect that violence online has, especially against women. And while I speak about marginalized groups, I mean, this could happen to anyone, really. It can happen to activists, it can happen to lawyers, academics, and journalists. And I think we've all been to previous events by the UNESCO Media Freedom Committee here, and they've been doing some great work addressing these issues. So what I was trying to say is that then this issue is not just an issue of privacy and freedom of expression, but it's a safety, whether it's physical or online, and also equality, because people need to be able to access and communicate in the same way across the world. So one of the ways to address this is to allow these communications to be made in private. Privacy can be twofold here. It can be privacy of the content of the communication itself. It can also be anonymity for the person who's engaging in this communication. And it's important that technology should provide for this. We already have many tools such as encryption and tools that provide for anonymity. But in order to really enable people to use these, there need to be more open standards. And also, I think that regulation needs to provide for and also encourage such practices. In addition to technology, and this is just my last point here, our legal systems also need to be capable of addressing these issues. For too long, we've been lamenting the fact that laws just cannot keep up with technology. But we really need to find a way to fix this. While we talk about secure communication tools, we also need to have, these secure communication tools. There is always the other side to it. This can be used for criminal activities, and what do we do then? Should we just not allow people to use these tools? But there are many questions that are raised on this front. But while our fundamental rights are not absolute, they are integral to our being as a society, and we need a balanced and reasonable solution that's also transparent and promotes individual human rights. And this is where I think, again, while it may not be a complete solution, something like the universality indicators could be very helpful, because in a lot of countries, in developing countries and least developing countries, and we keep pointing this out every time we make submissions for consultations on privacy, international standards do matter. And international standards set an example as to where it provides room for regulation to grow and provides room for courts to make more progressive judgments. So yeah, that's what I wanted to say.
Thank you so much, Smita, for a very interesting and exciting presentation. I think you have raised a number of things, the challenges which we are currently facing, and of course our governments are stuck in the middle there. On one hand, we want access, to provide access, but on the other hand, you also have cybercrime, organized crime, human trafficking, At the moment, you could go to the internet and easily find all the details about making bombs and whatever that you know. So governments are really having a hard time, On one hand, how can they provide universal access to information, access to the internet? On the other hand, they are faced with all these challenges. And I think this is the challenge that we need to discuss, and probably through multi-stakeholder approach, we will arrive to the solutions. So for that, I'd like to invite now special speaker. Please.
Dr. Al-Amin, distinguished guests, that Dr. Banerjee, we are trying basically government from the how to that government has already taken. Main pillars are affordability of 4 pillars, and in these there are 9 to 10 major activities that are presently going on. So I will go one by one on these. First is that basically we need to have a connectivity. Although sir has mentioned that connectivity is not all for the internet, but yes, one is one of the major pillar for internet access. In the next slide, please. So, in the connectivity front, India has progressed a lot. India was one time has only 28% mobile density. To now we have almost 1.12 billion mobile users, and approximately 500 million internet users, and people are accessing internet and information through mobile more and more compared to your network, that means desktop versions. So mobile plays a very important role in having information access, and it is growing day by day. So this is one front in which, and the major importance is that all the major mobile phone developers, as well as from India and from rest of the world, like major brands, they have shops in India, and they are actually producing large number of mobile in India. So this is one of the major pillars in which we have reached. Earlier we don't have the information access, but now at least we can access the information through mobile. We are our own identity is unique to. We can actually reduce delays, information loss, and we can mobile connection uses the transmission, have your we in India, a lot of common service centers have been established, and through the common service centers we actually offer lot of services and the host of services, starting from the driving license to your Aadhaar registration, so from banking information, even the railway ticket booking, all these are being done through the common service center. So in an essence, this CSC has actually enabled the acceleration of the information to the poorest citizens. So this is one of the major steps. We can in the next slide we can see that even it provides that economic services also, and lot of transactions are going through CSC. So it's one of the major pillar in which government information and citizen information can reach in an easy and accessible manner. So that accessible, and if you can see that entire transactions through the 46 million transactions happen this CSC. Second and third, economy ideas, you know how to fully secure your services. Next, please. Then again the same thing, your digital locker kind of system in which all your certificates is started. You can put it simply in a key and send safe and secure. It's growing. A lot of issues are there. We need to resolve those issues. Next, please. So I have already mentioned that growth of digital payment, and everything is being linked through Aadhaar. The only challenge is that it has to be more and more secure, and data breaches should not be there. That's the only thing. Now we have a DBT kind of thing. Earlier, the downtrodden and the poorest persons even uh, can have their own money in their own hand. The in-between loss is somewhat reduced, although there are a lot of controversies there. But still, I believe that yes, DBT has reduced the losses. So that even the independent reports suggest that international reports suggest that by DBT we have cut out lot of losses. Next, please. Yeah. So how government is progressing and savings in government transaction. One of the most important pillar is as far as openness and education is concerned is the digital education digital education and the new initiative that Pradhan Mantri Gramin Digital Saksharata Abhiyan through which at least students are being given the basic computer education so that more and more information and knowledge can be accessible by them. One of the important thing is that we have introduced that MyGov platform, and it's basically the interaction with government through its own social media, and people can have their own ideas. It have a lot of things. You can have own ideas. You can even these ideas reaches directly to our highest authority PM, so that from there it is chosen, and the same ideas are percolated for in startup kind of thing. A lot of competition is there. Even if you see that this Digital India logo, it also came through your MyGov portal, where this competition has been organized. For the healthcare, we started with e-hospital, and initiative has been taken for digitizing the patient information system. We are working in the primarily initially with AIMS and Safdarjung in New Delhi. So it can be fully digitized payment information system, and even a common person have the information through a simple voice-based phone. And that work is already on. In digitization of the marketplace, e-NAM, that means National Agriculture Market Portal, in which all the information to the market has been received by any farmer with a click of just it's not only laptop is required, simply mobile phone, with an ordinary mobile phone, and we have a toll-free number, and we have introduced automatic speech recognition technology there, so that they can have their information by simply making a phone call. If we have time, we can demo some other day how it works. Through that, we have also and information is all in even all major Indian languages. That means 19 Indian languages has been introduced in that kind of information. Just two more slides. Yeah, next. Jiban Praman, that's digitization of certificates. Yeah, next. One of the major challenges that I will just highlight is the multilingualism in India, which is just next. I'll skip these slides. Yeah, next. Yeah, this is one of the major challenges in India, and about 10% of the Indian population only knows English, and 90% do not have any so conversant with English. So with this, the Government of India's one of the mission mode program is there, technology development for Indian languages. So we have developed language series in which these office applications, major office applications have been like font, keyboard driver, all have been introduced in 22 Indian languages, and this is completely free of cost, and it's available at this website. You can just simply go there and download. So far 1.41 crore downloads have been there. Second is that to have knowledge access from one language to another language, We have machine translation systems. Apart from Google Translation, we have developed in 31 Indian languages pair. That means not all language pairs have been covered. That means English to that among Indian languages. So 31 Indian languages are there, and it's already hosted in this website. People can visit, and it's completely free of cost. Text-to-speech technology, that is in 12 Indian languages, that has been developed and fully integrated with low-cost mobile smartphones. We are tied up with all Indian manufacturers, and they have already integrated with Android-based. For Windows, we have not been able to done, but for at least for the Android systems, it's completed. Then domain-specific speech recognition that I have already mentioned. That is already been developed for voice-based access. It's already developed in 12 Indian languages. Then cross-lingual information access for domain-specific, like tourism domain, we have developed. Then OCR, then handwriting recognition. So these are the major technologies which can actually reduce the information deprivation, and people living in most part of the India can have their information in their own languages. Few policy initiatives that is there. It's digital policy, then digital locker, then cloud policy, IT procurement policy, and in most of this policy we have tried to introduce that it should be accessible in Indian languages. And one policy that is missing here, that is use of open source, completely open source development platform for data access. So that is there. All as sir is mentioning that it's taxpayers' money. So we are trying to make it accessible to more and more people, giving it them free of cost. So that is there. And national cyber security policy has been recently announced to take care of the concerns of all stakeholders. With this, I will not take much time. Thank you again for a huge time and giving the opportunity.
Thank you so much, Dr. Somnath. Actually, we just had a meeting, international meeting with the National Digital Library of India and several other national digital libraries from the rest of the world. And the indication there was that there are still some challenges in OCR for Indian languages and machine translation, but this is very good news, actually. It seems we are, striding, at least we are heading somewhere. So congratulations to the ministry and the government of India. But one thing is, I hope the different ministries are speaking to each other. I hope the Minister of Human Resource Development is aware of all this development as well. And the different initiatives, such as the National Digital Library of India, will be able also to tap on these innovations. And of course, many other digital libraries which will come up in India.
In fact, as you mentioned, that OCR, we have given this OCR in Hindi language to National Archives of India, so that actually they can test it, the efficacy. It's because it's only a research outcome right now, but we have already given them to National Archives so that they can test it, the efficacy, and we can further improve for mass deployment. This is, I know this is very important for digitization.
So we hope one day we'll have an Indian Cortana. Maybe it will be a Bharat Cortana. I don't know what the name will be. Let's hope for that. He also talked about the Indian Digital India Initiative with its 9 pillars, connectivity, the achievement of having about 1.2 billion users. But of course, we all know that they will still have challenges on the cost of connectivity, the last mile challenges, and the hardware. I don't think every citizen can purchase hardware. Yes. We also have...
But we are taking steps.
Yes.
Step-by-step approach to reduce them.
Yeah, and he also delivered some very good information about the government initiative to ensure that services reach each and every citizen on their doorstep. So we hope next year we'll be able to renew our driving licenses from home. And of course, he mentioned about the direct benefits of funds transfers, LOCA, and many other initiatives by the government of India. And I think this is very important because they actually, with the current development, it's like we are putting all our eggs in a few baskets. You know, we have the big players with data savers in the world, and everybody is putting their data there. So if India can emerge to be one of the data centers in the world, I think it will really help to mitigate the risk of storing data in just a few players in the world. I don't want to mention their names, but this is very good news as well for the Indian government. Yeah.
Have a data center in India so that we can have their own cloud space, and it's already in the medium scale right now, but hopefully in 3 years time it will be a large scale development.
All the good news. It seems everything you think is being thought of. So,
A lot of challenges are there.
yes.
They are not, it is not as smooth as we think. A lot of challenges are there.
Mhm.
And each and every step they are facing challenges.
Open the floor now.
Yeah.
No, so now, I think, yes, Dr. Indraj. Yeah. Okay, so now the floor is open. Please, when you raise your hand, tell us your name and where you're coming from. Then you can shoot directly your question or contribution. Right.
Very good afternoon to everyone. Thank you very much for such a nice discussion. My name is Dr. Maushumi Bhattacharya. I'm from Vishwabharati University, Center for Journalism and Mass Communication. Presently, I'm associated with Jamia Millia for my postdoc research. Actually, first question to you, whether your slides are, I mean, we can share your slides or not. A reason I'm telling, because being an academician, it's very tough to get very recent data, which I'm really floored with your data collection. Because whenever we go online, we get the data for 2015 or 16. And yeah, so of course, unless you're like
This one only, huh?
this,
We're talking open access here.
yeah. So yeah, that's why I didn't take any picture also, because I wanted to take your permission. Because October 2017 data, this is something amazing. So this is first thing. Secondly, my work, I'm doing a very small work actually. My postdoc work actually, it's in the village area of Birbhum district. It's how mobile telephony is bringing in changes in the rural women's life and how it is empowering them. I started it in 2011. It's a very small incident happened. We went there for a radio workshop, and we saw that there is, though it's 10 kilometers away from the university town, there is no power connection, nothing, but each and every household has got at least one mobile. So first thing came into my mind, so how do they charge and recharge the phone? That's a very interesting, very small story. They have two guys in the village, so every day they used to collect at that point of time, all the mobiles, 40 or 50 households. They used to take all the mobiles to the nearest station. They used to charge, they used to take 2 rupees per mobile per month. Yeah, this was the scenario. But of course, yeah, it's amazing. So at that point of time, so we started asking question, why you are keeping this mobile phone? Most of them are illiterate. How do you use the mobile phone? Very basics. 6 years down the line, I'm doing my postdoc on this. So I'm really amazed to see all the facilities out here in your presentation. So my basic question is that how they can avail these facilities. Because these are very basic questions, at least 50% women told us, which is really, really great. Now we can send our girl child to school as because they are carrying mobile and we know that they are safe. And it's a very big statement to me. And it starts with, I mean, this is something very, very, very significant. Most of them, they go to Bengali medium school.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. And there are Tothomitra Kendros also
Yes,
in
yes,
West Bengal.
yeah.
But most of them are like, if you go at 12 o'clock, it's all shut. Nobody is there.
Yeah, as far as CSE is concerned, CSE, yeah, some states their problems are there. But yes, as far as the information access is concerned, there are a lot of the technology is that voice-based technology. That is, you can simply dial a number and you'll have all the information at your as far as present state is concerned, the information available for agriculture and weather information systems. So that information they can simply accessing by a simple number. Presently it is not toll free, but we are making it toll free very soon with that your Kishan call center number, that is 1551. So all the this agriculture and weather information, they will be very soon integrated with your toll free number, and you can simply have the access by this one. For that we need to develop this speech recognition technology to a lot extent, and requires a lot of research. For example, each require domain specific data. For example, now we have developed for agriculture and weather. For example, if you want to have any medical information, so that terminologies and technologies need to be developed. We are working on that, and hopefully, as you know, there are constraints are there, research funding constraints, technology challenges are there. So we will definitely achieve through this telephony with simple voice-based access. So that's my answer.
I think you've asked a very, very fundamental question, because these statistics look very impressive.
Yeah.
And congratulations for that. I think India is definitely moving on the digital path, but I think there are several people, including Mr. Pravi Banerjee, who's sitting here, who would be perhaps wondering, and that's why your question is so important, how do you access these schemes? Who do you call? Who do you write to?
Another information that I am giving, which is still in the development stage, is a universal mobile app in which all 31 information have been integrated, which has not yet been developed. It's not yet been launched as per se, but it is testing is going on, in which all the major information access is integrated in a single app, and in next few months time it will be formally launched, and it will again cater 12 Indian languages. How many languages? 12 languages. Umang is in 12 languages, and all major languages are covered there. So we are moving. We are partly answering your question, not fully.
No, I understand.
Yeah.
Can you introduce yourself if you're asking a question? Microphone, please. Your name, please, first.
Yeah, my name is Kshitij. I'm from ZIMA, Z Institute of Media Arts. And I just wanted to harp on the similar thing that when you talk about India, it's pretty much clear fact. It's already been known in terms of population, huge chunk of population. I don't know about the recent statistics, but I still can sense while going onto the many platforms that it's still a lot. There are many people who are still illiterate. They cannot read and they cannot write. So the applications and the platforms we were talking about, they are all speech to text, or I mean, is it only speech to text, or is it more feature enabled in terms of voice accessibility or something like that?
We have already developed two technologies. One is text to speech, which actually reads out your information. I don't have that phone today. I could have shown, because it is all available in few Indian brand mobile who have actually integrated the text to speech technology into their platform. So information could be read out. So even an illiterate and not so literate persons can simply have that information with just simply hearing this. As far as this accessing the information is concerned, that is opposite, that is speech to text, it's still a very challenging task because we don't have that kind of resource as multinational is having. But yes, we are based on all open source platform. We have developed speech recognition technology in 12 Indian languages for two domains, that is weather and agriculture. So the development for two more domains, that is health and education, they are on the way, and in say 1 year time it will be again the same thing. So these are the way I'm going on. Yeah.
Yes, maybe we'll just, and then followed by.
My name is Probir Banerjee and I come from Pondicherry, and I'm from an organization called Pondi Citizens Action Network. I'm also a member of NCPC, National Coastal Protection Campaign, which works along the entire coast of the country with fishing communities and all. The point is that actually in these villages, first of all, they are not trained. Even if you have information, they are not trained. So what is being done in terms of training these people in accessing internet? Secondly, a lot of it is not transparent. I also work with the farmers. So the government takes certain decisions, giving contracts and things where a lot of money gets siphoned out and all that. And this information is not put out earlier so that the farmers could actually say that this work should be given to the tank association and the farmers instead of giving it to contractors who are basically driven by politicians. So one is the training part, and also the information being put up sufficient so that these people can access it and take some action against what is being done.
As far as training is concerned, we have already contacted National Informatics Center and their district, and it has been reached up to the block level to percolate the information about what can be accessible through mobile. Yes, lot of more awareness campaigns are needed. Sometimes we issue newspaper alerts. On the media front, we have not done much because it will take time. Yes, but through National Informatics Center, we are trying to reach out to the actual persons trained. We are also tied up with IMD, who issues regional bulletins on regular basis as far as in the coastal areas about the warnings and weather warnings and agricultural advisory. So once it is integrated with that unified platform, hopefully it will reach more and more persons. Yes, I agree fully with you that a lot of awareness campaigns need to be done. So that is missing. Yes, I fully agree with it. But yes, we are trying on that front. Yeah, on capacity building. Yeah.
Sagari.
I'm Sagari Chabra. I'm a writer, filmmaker, and freelance journalist. Today, the Rajasthan Patrika has published a blank editorial to protest against the draconian Rajasthan ordinance, and which has far-reaching consequences for the press. And the only time earlier this was done in our country was during the emergency, when the Statesman and Indian Express carried blank editorials to protest against the censorship of the press. Can you hear me? My question... Oh.
Very strict law. Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
I will respond it because I am not a representative of the government of India. And my response will be the following. This is exactly why we are projecting our Internet Universality indicators. It has to be rights-based. And anything which is rights-based is as per law. So you can't just, because he's afraid he might disappear tomorrow. All his details might be deleted too. So it has to be rights-based, and that is why it is a central focus for us. It has to be human rights-based, and we keep on repeating it again and again and again and again, so that we realize that the internet is not a playground for people to just do what they want and steal your identity and write whatever defamatory statement they want to make about you. So, your question is theoretical. My answer is also theoretical. In principle, it has to be inscribed in some kind of law. For the moment, there seems to be no agreement. You can go and defame anybody on the internet. Where are you going to go? Who knows which court to go to, etc., etc. So this is why I'm saying a basic code of conduct, ethics, values, citizenship of the internet, these are things which are going to save us. Otherwise, with 4 billion people running after you, you're in trouble. Even if it's 10% of those 4 billion people. I'll give you modalities. Very simple example. The only consensus which has been achieved so far by the international community is pedophilia. Okay? It is banned, it is illegal. I don't see any reason for which we can't progress further to say breach of privacy, hate speech, cyberbullying, all of that should also be regulated. The problem is that the moment you project, and we know that at UNESCO, the moment you project any form of code or conduct or values or ethics, not even to go to law, there are a whole bunch of countries which are going to say these are going to be used as excuses for restricting freedom of speech. Now, my freedom of speech allows me to abuse you. What about your right? So, there is no right which, this is one of the things, that there is no right which supersedes other rights. If I am, for example, promoting terrorist recruitment in ISIS, for example, and if somebody in your family or in your surrounding gets killed, my freedom of expression cannot supersede the right to life. So there are no hierarchy of rights. All rights are equal. So going on pushing freedom of expression, however much we like it, and we believe it's a fundamental right, will not solve our problem. Look at where we are today. The internet is being used with the dark net and all that for the worst things possible. So we should stand up and say, look, there has to be some decorum, some ethics, some values on the net like there are in the world. So don't worry, we're not going to disappear that fast.
Yes, please, Dr. Gao. Microphone for Dr. Gao, please.
I'm Dr. Ramesh Kaur, University Librarian, Jawaharlal Nehru University. I have two questions. First to you, regarding the excellent initiative to have a data portal, but unfortunately, hardly there is any data on that. So all these such initiative, until unless still we connect all those concerned ministries and departments, because data is still scattered with various organizations. So I think the major challenge is to have that data on place on data portal. Only researcher and academicians can benefit out of that.
Yeah, my answer is that you should visit that Open Government Initiative, OGI, where a lot of data have been already put in linked open data format. So you can have different data formats like CSV, Excel, whatever it may be. So that portal you can visit, Open Government portal, that has recently been put on. A lot of data are fully accessible. Yes, the data are continuously populated on this portal. So more and more data can be easily accessible. And the portal that I have shown, that tdildc.gov.in, all the technologies and language data, what is except the confidential one, they are open for the researchers. So you can simply access that too. There's research-based data, and for researchers it is completely free.
So my next question, basically regarding this fake news. As a librarian, we have a concern, everything can be put on internet, anything can be written on internet. And particularly, even in academic and research categories, we can find a lot of predatory journals and all kind of sites. They provide wrong information, even fake data. So how to deal with this problem of fake information, fake news, or fake research?
I think there are some portals out there that do fact checks, and the number of people who are doing this are increasing every day. And So hopefully that's going to combat some of it. I don't have an answer, honestly. Yeah, it's.
Look, my response to that would be very simple. Fake news, in my view, has always existed. It's not as if with the internet fake news was born. Rumors have been existing for centuries. People spread disinformation. It's already been existing for centuries. So my approach, or UNESCO's approach to it is, how do you educate people to sift through the deluge of information that they are subjected to? Again, media information literacy. So you are going on teaching the children in schools history, geography, biology, chemistry, when most of the kids are spending most of the time on some gadget or the other. So why not provide them with some courses, a basic curriculum on how both you can leverage information communication technologies for doing research, for accessing information, for enhancing your livelihood, and at the same time minimizing their exposure to the negative aspects of the internet. I think that will take care of the issue. Why don't you or me, I don't know whether you are a victim of fake news. I'm definitely not. I'm definitely not, because I go to sites which have got sources checked, facts checked, etc. Once in a while some message will come from somebody who will say X, Y, Z, but I'm quite fine with fake news because it's not my problem.
So this is a big problem why I'm raising this issue, because there are now mindset and misconception in this country. Now everything is available on the internet. This I'm talking about bureaucrats, administrators, and people who are on the position who are running such kind of organizations. They believe that now everything is available on the internet. What is the need of libraries? Libraries are the biggest source of authenticated information. And what is happening? If you see the statistics, we are number 5 in terms of research output in this in the world. But if you see the originality of the research or the rating in terms of citation or like we are nowhere. Recently this NSF has released a report. We are nowhere mentioned in top 20 countries where our articles have been cited. So what is happening, like our students, our researchers are more inclined towards that information available on the internet. Our libraries are ruined like that. There is hardly any focus on libraries in this country. More than 70% posts of the heads of the libraries in this country lying vacant. Budgets are being cut. So we are not encouraging the authenticated source of information. And librarians are trained in these kind of issues, like how to deal with, how to identify which is the authenticated information, which is not. But unfortunately, those channels are being declined, and I think that is going to be a very dangerous situation when a student cannot identify. Like how many students know that Google provide access to only 15% of the web contents. Remaining 85% contents you have to find out other source of other academic search engines or different tools. So how to educate them, that's a big issue. And we are not working on strengthening such kind of channels.
Excellent point. In fact, I have the distinct privilege of running UNESCO's Memory of the World program, which is the central program and the only program in the world to promote preservation of documentary heritage. We have now more than 420 documents, I think, which are listed. It's a little bit like the World Heritage Sites. Countries nominate documents from around the world. We have 195 member countries at UNESCO, which is more or less all of the world. And every 2 years, all these documents are screened, and the most precious documents are listed on the register. Along with that, we work with the International Federation of Libraries and Archives to promote understanding of the importance of documentary heritage. So, absolutely right. It's a huge problem. We used to go and stand in libraries, and many of our colleagues used to steal the books from the libraries. So that was a problem we had. But today we have an abundance of information. in the process, we have completely forgotten the importance of libraries. But I'll give you a very simple example of what the government of India can do. Just emulate what Singapore did with their national library. It's absolutely stunning. It's absolutely stunning because the library is not only a library. I mean, our libraries, you know, I'm sorry to say, I mean, the boring places to go to, and damp and squalid and all that. But you go to the Singapore National Library, they have spaces for people to meet. They have a coffee shop. They have computer labs. So you have to redesign the libraries for this current generation. So, true that there has been big neglect, but also true that not much has been done to reshape, reconfigure, and remake libraries in the 21st century. And I think both of them are right. So the government of India, I mean, please go to our libraries, and I'm not even talking Delhi. Go to smaller cities and see what the state of our libraries are. Yes, please.
I'm Savitri Singh, principal of an undergraduate college in the University of Delhi. And as an Indian, I'm very proud that we've always had policies in place. I mean, open education policy, for example, has been around for 10 years now. We have Digital India where they have all these, but
Governments say, yes, great, we put it in policy because you need a policy in place. But then the universities are autonomous, institutions are autonomous, implementation, you can't force it on people. So what you need are basically champions. I have seen in most countries I visited, for all these policies on open access, open education resources, if you have a few champions, if you have a few institutions, high-powered institutions like the IITs or the IIMs or the universities, central universities, if they adopt it, it flies. So I think the government can make policies, but expecting the government to because somebody told me, and I think you heard that in the World OER Congress, that universities are run by Senate. So even if the government of India and the Ministry of Education has a national open education resource policy, the Senate is not obliged to adopt it. So you have great policies, rightfully said, little implementation, so we need champions, and you're one of the champions. I must acknowledge that.
fighting for this for last 10 years now, more than 10 years. No, what I'm saying is, for example, the National Resource on Open Education Resources, that was NROER, that was put up by the NCERT. And suddenly, it was a perfectly CC by SA site, and suddenly now it is, the license is removed. Now it's there without any kind of a license. So we have, as soon as the head of an institution changes, re-educating people, this kind of, it's a continuous process. Whereas there's a great, this thing to undo things. When you take over positions, most people want to undo what has been done instead of trying to go ahead. And that is, maybe our approach to everything is like that.
No,
okay, let's undo.
No, but why would they take out the CC by SA?
They did. And it's not legally, it's not legally tenable, because once you put out a material as CC by SA, even if you don't put a license, but then today I don't know, it doesn't have a license.
No,
if I'm a fresh user and I go there, they have removed it.
No, legally if you have CC by SA license, you cannot undo it.
But they did it.
So who authorized the undoing? The government?
The new director?
She did that. Okay. She will answer your question then.
No, you just see your... No, let me site now and check the license. See, the problem...
I'm very happy that somebody is
Yeah, I'm very happy. I'm happy too. I want that. So you can check the website now. Open it and just check. What I'm saying is there is an there is, just go to the nroer.nic.in. What is the problem that I find is that a lot of people assume if you don't put any license on content, it is open. So that is the problem. That is what is the problem through the country. Yeah, that's not true. We know that. But a lot of people assume if there is no license, it's open.
Either you put CC or you put CC by SA or you put something.
So you have to put something. NRO, yeah?
Yeah, this is NRO.
Just go for licensing somewhere, it will be there.
Now the clock is ticking.
They just removed it. It earlier carried CC by SA.
You have the floor to respond.
Okay, well, it's not the way to
You see, they even shut you out.
This is very convenient.
No, basically, and this is happening.
Yeah, maybe you can use your mic.
Just see if there's any licensing.
Can I look at the neighbor and just see if they have any? Yeah, that's fine.
Open it again.
Okay, just go to menu.
Yeah,
Just scroll down.
trying to see what the license is. No, these are comments. These are user comments.
There's no.
Yeah, you're right. There doesn't seem to be any license.
There are no. So, and many people believe no license is open license. That's my problem.
Okay.
Licensing
Okay,
okay.
NCR team, please take note of this and
इसको
communicate.
पहले जैसे था
Yes.
सीसी पर ऐसे करा आप कौन से डिपार्टमेंट से हम CIT
Just put it on your homepage that is CC by SA.
अच्छा अमरिंद को कह देना मैंने just tell him Sabitre sir.
Yeah, your homepage doesn't mention any license.
Okay, you can still take a few questions, maybe at least 3 questions before we wind up. Yes, please. Maybe let's start with the. Yeah? Yeah, okay. Yeah. And then, Madam after him, please.
Hello everyone, my name is Gopal Krishan from Zima. My question is to, first question is to Dr. Banerjee. When, sir, you said that less than 10% of languages are on the internet. Don't you think, sir, it's very early to judge internet on this basis that it is actually revolutionizing right now? Means Microsoft is from ages right now. We can say that Microsoft is from ages. Even we don't have every font or every keyboard kind of setting things for every language on computer. If we don't have these kind of facilities on the basic foundation of internet, which is computer, then how can we imagine that internet can have those things, right? The languages that part you talk about. My second question to sir, you is that Akroda, the Ahmedabad village, the first digital and the cashless village of the India. 2 weeks back when the 8th of November, okay, on that day I got an article on Indian Express where they have written that less than 20% of the transaction are going in digital mode because of the server down, there are no payment machines are not working, and they even get frustrated they are not using the digital modes now. Though you showed us the data full-fledged with many numbers, whooping numbers of 1.41 crores or something else, but I think that government is just do one thing that they implied the policies or they just facilitate the things, but they don't done the maintenance kind of things, right? So I just want sir first to answer this question. Yeah.
Well, I think your question about the multilingualism in cyberspace is relevant, but 450 out of 7,000?
Less than 5%.
That's one point. Second point is that if the internet has to be harnessed for development purposes, and most of the developing countries' languages are not online, it's not going to take us very far. So yes, I'm not judging the internet. I'm just saying these are the facts. Efforts have to be made by governments, by private sector, by Microsoft or whoever it is, to ensure that more and more languages can be online. And more content can be put online. Because a lot of the languages, when I go to travel in Africa particularly, they tell me basically we have lots of content. But our language fonts are not there. We don't have the funds to put our content online. And I think that should be a priority, because these are ancient countries and great civilizations, and they should be online. And not only should they be online, I'm simply saying with machine translation, etc. Imagine if I'm an Indian guy who's doing a research project on Ethiopia. What content do I have? All content which is produced by CNN, BBC, all foreigners who don't even know Ethiopia, because the Ethiopian scholars are not present online. And we did a fantastic project, of which we are very proud at UNESCO, is the whole history of Africa in 10, 15 volumes, written by African professors, telling their side of the story. It is like us writing about our struggle for independence, not some British scholar. So language is much more than just, okay, my language is online. It's my story, it's my worldview, it's my history. And this is why I'm saying it is serious that languages should be represented online, and all efforts should be made towards that. So that's my response to you.
Yeah, my answer to your question is that any new technology or any new thing that is a disruptive change that you know. Yes, there are challenges involved in people adopting this cashless economy. Definitely, in there's those figures that figures are correct figures, and they are showing. Yeah, but challenges are there. There are hiccups are there. Sometimes servers are down. Just maybe that, and government is working on that.
Less than 20%. After 1 year, that report said.
I have also that story, but this may be the one particular piece of that story. There are other pieces where people are going fully online.
There's a 1200 people village only, very small village, and
I have also read that story.
Yeah.
But on my answer would be that yes, there are hiccups are there, challenges are there. We need to overcome this.
So do you have any kind of machinery, or what you say, and any process where you recheck the things you had done earlier?
Yeah. We still have. Please, we have a lot of questions. Okay. So, yeah, maybe Madam there, and then one more question, last question from you, and then we'll wind up.
Yeah, this question is actually for Dr. Chandra. Could you tell us the status of the IT Act? Because is it being revised or amended? I mean, there has been talk, because it's now quite old, that you're going to, revise it. So I want to know which part of MAIT does that, and what is the status?
Division is there, that is cyber law division is there. Yes, their initiative has been taken to see the challenging parts of the IT Act, and there is a committee that has already been formed who is overseeing the revision of the IT Act. So that is going on.
What is the definition of challenging parts?
There are many sections that many sections are there. I am not from that division.
Not from that division.
Yeah,
okay.
But yes, I am aware that some of the sections which need to be reoriented to the present scenario, that work is going on. That high-level committee has already been formed. That I know.
But it's not started work, or it's under process?
Right
you don't
now,
know.
a committee has been formed. That part I know.
And that's all internal committee or from other people?
No, exactly. I cannot reveal
other
that.
experts. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks for the question. Then.
Hello, I'm Rohit. I'm a PhD student in JNU. I do research on digital economy and open data. So my question is, I've done quite a bit of research on Aadhaar, And my experience has been that, I mean, you made a wonderful presentation about Digital India, but is there an internal process within the government to assess the benefits, how people are actually responding to it? Like the ma'am that I think she has left, who explained the process of how mobile telephony benefited rural women in one area. So is there a process whereby the government can assess benefits of Digital India and all the common service centers that you asked? And another part to that question is, while pushing digital technology all over the country, there are certain logics that are given in the legislature, in the judiciary, and in the media, some of which has been these savings figures that come out.
Okay.
Honestly, when I do the calculations, I don't see those savings figures. It's very hard to justify savings figures like 50,000 crores.
Yeah.
And
these figures are all from Ministry of Finance. They have provided the data. So
yeah, and in the interest of open data,
yeah,
there should be a methodology whereby it is shown that this is how we arrived at the savings, and this was what the cost was, which unfortunately it's not even reflected in the budget. And I've been studying the budget for 5 years, and I was involved in an open budget data project as well.
Okay.
So I could not figure it out.
First part I can definitely answer that yes, there is an ongoing process, how much we have penetrated, that CSC program we are now studying, how it reached, how it helped, how much population, and what needs to be done for further augmentation. So we are now in process of CSC 2. Second is that there is another mission mode project, and that is e-district project. So district wise, the category of services that is being rolled out, and a lot of districts have already been online. So this is an online process. Government conducts survey with different surveying agency, as well as their own feedback mechanism, the reach of the penetration. So that is an ongoing process, and we take decision based on the feedback and how further new things can be added, new mission modes are being conceptualized and being rolled out. So that's my answer. Second part of the answer, I am hazy. These figures are all Minister of Finance figure, so I don't have any answer.
Maybe there was, I think you raised just one question. No, multiple questions.
Yeah, just one question I had. Let me introduce myself. I am Deepak Parvatiyar. I am the media advisor of Indian Federation of United Nations Association, as well as VKF Film Festival on disability issues. And I am also a journalist. And by virtue of being a journalist, I get opportunities of visiting colleges and interacting with many undergraduate students. And one thing that I have come across, and even my child, that problem is of getting addicted to mobile. That addiction is there. So you talked about redesigning the library. It is a very good idea, but the point is how to de-addict them to get into this mold, the youngsters in particular. And if I go for lectures, first thing they will ask the students, sir, anything what is different from Google, please tell us that. Because other things is a wastage of time, that is in Google. But unfortunately, Google does not mean only the authentic sources. It means many other irrelevant and fake news. What you talk, it's not just fake news, fake information and fake research also. They are there. That is the problem that we are grappling with. So is there any move on your part to see how this problem can be taken care of?
Technologically, we can solve this problem from this deluge of data. That is called semantic web kind of thing, in which the information will be based on more concept based. So you know that in all European countries, European Commission and in US, the work has already been, in lot of progress has been done. In India, we have just started that development of the semantic web kind of thing. For example, suppose I give a keyword search like physics, so it should simply say, call out the results related to physics only, not beyond that. Because if you go third page beyond Google, so some irrelevant informations come. So technologically, yes, that is possible through development of new technology that is called semantic web, which is part of Web 3. And in Government of India, we have already started developing the standard for Web 3, that is semantic web in Indian language. It's very, very nascent stage that I can share, that I'm sharing with you. As far as human behavior is concerned, that is again a very challenging task. The answer is that we human being, our own, it can be our best judge to de-addict ourselves. So maybe sir can answer this question much better way.
No, I don't know. Yeah. Much better way or not. I think every generation has its addictions. Today we happen to have people who are stuck to their mobile phones or the internet, whatever. You see, in earlier times, what regulated social conduct? Let's go back a little bit to the history. You had family, you had church, and your surrounding, your peers, and so on and so forth. Now, the family is less and less important for unfortunate reasons. The church has almost disappeared, or the temple, or the mosque, or whatever. So, what is left? A large portion of the influence of today's generation, your kid, my kids, etc., is conditioned by their peers. So unless we take responsibility, both at home and at school, that's why I said media information literacy, to tell them, for example, I don't allow mobile phones on the dining table. And recently I met the Minister of Information of Rwanda, and he said to me, but I can't have a conversation even on the dining table. I said, it's your fault. Tell them mobile phones banned, It's like keep your guns at the bar. Don't bring them in. So I think all of us have to make a collective effort. There's no point in blaming anybody. Because this addiction is also, you might ask yourself the question, why are they so addicted to these gadgets? Is there nothing else which interests them in life? Are we educating them enough to do some social work or do some sports or go out? Do they have the facilities, etc., etc.? So it's an ecosystem which we have to manage. Addiction is a manifestation of certain lacks. If you're stuck at home and there is smog outside, what can you do but go on the internet? What else would you do? So I think one has to really think about it in a very holistic manner and look at it from an ecosystem perspective. And we find solutions to this. Nobody is so addicted that, if you invite your son to play cricket or take him to a nice holiday or take him for a swim, I don't see why he or she should be sitting on the mobile phone. I think it would be a monumental waste of time. So that's my response. It is.
Okay, so thank you so much, Dr. Somnath. We also wish to thank the Ministry of Electronics and IT, and for the partnership, Center for Communication Governance.
Everybody should participate in GCCS 2017, where the main theme is that inclusive, safe and secure cyberspace. So we again invite everybody to pre-register in the conference.
Can they still register? Do they still
register? Yeah, please. So please register for GCCS, and yes, you can join there.
Yeah. So you have all been invited. Please take your chance, register. Apparently the registration is still open. So thank you, all of you, for very insightful discussions, contributions. And after this session, we have tea downstairs. Aniban, it's downstairs, eh? Oh, outside. Just outside here. So please join us for tea. Thank you so much. Yeah.